Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Tullio, welcome to Let's Talk Small Business. Introducing yourself, Tullio Siragusa is a business strategist, author, and speaker, and right now the founder of Inventric Advisory. So you're a fractional executive coach. Brilliant. I love it. I'm so actually interested and excited to learn all about what you do, what you bring to the table. But first of all, how did you get to becoming the founder of this business and being a fractional executive? Where did it all start for you?
Yes, thanks for having me, Mitchell. I'm looking forward to it. It's very personal, actually. I kept struggling with a cycle that I couldn't break free from or break through. I'd have the right strategy, the right tactics, everything aligned, but I always felt like I hit a wall when it came to growth as an executive and as a leader. And to the point that I was like, oh, I'm cursed. I've got a ceiling on top of me and I can't break through it. And I was fortunate to have a coach and a mentor at the time who was very learned on neuroscience techniques. And he worked with me to identify the beliefs that I was holding on to that were limiting me. So when I learned that those beliefs, which could have started before the age of 9, something that could have happened that created a belief that limit you, and they surface later, in life. But what was the most amazing thing to me is that even though those beliefs are hardwired, you can rewrite them, you can overwrite them. And so I learned about neuroscience and brain rewiring and how you can create new connections in the brain with mantras, good old-fashioned mantras. And about 90 days after having developed a mantra with my coach at the time, I was able to have a breakthrough. My behaviors changed.
So if I can just stop you there and head back, what were some examples of limiting beliefs? Because I know a lot of people out there, maybe we talk about it, but maybe they don't sort of really understand what they can be or even know if they've got them.
The best description I can give you is actually a coaching client. We actually went through this, and you can listen to that actual session on my Rant and Grow podcast. I did it as an experiment to test my coaching skills. After I'd learned to be a coach, I was like, I need to go practice. So I came up with this idea of experimenting with a podcast and having people openly share their lives and their challenges in return for free coaching. So, and the first 2 seasons, it's full of examples of having these kinds of breakthrough. But one in particular was an entrepreneur who has a history, he's a serial entrepreneur, has a history of starting businesses that had tremendous potential, but not following through on them. Like he seems to give up before he gains traction. And he's like, I don't know why I do this. It's like he had a great... he's an ex-journalist, and he had a great news site that he had created. And he was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to follow through with it. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're getting some traction. It's moving along great. And I said, let me ask you something. What happened to you before the age of 9 that someone told you you couldn't do something? It just opened Pandora's box. And he says, well, I was 7 and I loved art. But when I went to make some art, the teacher said, you don't have a future in this. You're not very good at it. I said, wow, that must have been devastating to love something and then to be told you're not good at it. Even if he wasn't good at it, what happened is he created a belief that no matter what you love, there's a risk that you might fail at it or you may not be good at it. So why go all the way, only to be let down? And he didn't realize he created this belief, but it was there. And usually it happens before the age of 9. And so could you imagine being an adult and you're just going about trying to be passionate about building a company and you just can't seem to push through it? And you do it several times. You can't seem to push through and you have no idea what's going on. You got all the plans, all the strategy. You have the capability to do it. You have the skills to do it, but you can't seem to follow through. And so we developed a mantra and rewired his thinking. And after 90 days, completely changed his trajectory, and still running that business today. This is 5 years later. So that was a great lesson on me having to experience myself a breakthrough with neuroscience, but then helping others have their breakthrough and finding this little talent, if you will, being able to identify what that underlying belief is, has been incredibly rewarding. And the
I've
best
dealt
way I
with.
can,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. I was just going to say, and I'm resonating with what you're saying because I've dealt with a few people lately, and they've just recently been diagnosed with like ADHD and the rest, and they didn't really. Once they understood that was there, it really opened them up to understand themselves and actually do something about it to move forward. And listening to you with your, you know, limiting beliefs for entrepreneurs. I mean, one is sometimes they don't start, but when they start, it's so common to not go all the way. Yeah.
it's very common, and it's also really important to, it's from a self-awareness perspective. Like as an individual, part of growing requires first knowing where you're starting from, right? Your starting point is that moment of truth, the honesty that comes from self-awareness, where you start living based on who you are versus this aspirational version of who you want to be. So you have a starting point when you're truthful and you're aware of what your challenges are. You can work with that. In business, it's the same thing, you know. So what I do in my work is create a collective approach to helping the business have self-awareness. And I do this through force field analysis, which is a really creative way to identify all the things that are working on a company's behalf, that are moving the boulder forward, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are all the things that are pushing the boulder against the goal, right? So all the hidden forces, whether they're internal or external, that are called the hindering forces. And identifying those things is so critical. Knowing what you're strong in that you should be amplifying, and knowing those things you need to overcome, is the business version of having self-awareness. And then once you have those things understood, it's easy to put plans in place to address them. Like I use OKRs and I create collaboration so teams can collaborate together towards those most meaningful goals that they need to move, quarter by quarter. But then there's also the element of mindset. And the best way I can describe it is this. Think of like a baby elephant. It's tied to a pole. It is not strong enough to break free, but it tries. It tries over and over for a few years, and it can't break free because it's not strong enough. There's a reason it can't break free. It's real. But as the elephant grows and becomes this behemoth giant elephant, it could break free like this. It's strong enough. It is capable, but it doesn't believe it can, because the programming says, I can't do it, right? So they don't even try. The elephant doesn't even try. In business, when you are transforming your company, when you're going from startup mode to growth mode, what often ends up happening, the companies fire a certain set of people and then bring in a new set of people, thinking, well, this set of people doesn't have the ability to get us to the next level. And it's not true. They do have the ability. What they lack is the belief that they can. The mindset isn't there. So you take the risk in hiring a new set of people, and hopefully they have the mindset. In most cases, if you hire people that have been in that stage of growth, they will have that mindset. But you can actually train your team. You can coach your team to make that shift, because you cannot get to how things will be with the same mindset that got you to where things are right now. You have to evolve the mindset. So what I do is, as a neuroscience coach, is identify those limiting beliefs that are within the leadership team, within the teams, and work with them to rewire, to create new beliefs that allows them to transcend the limitations. And this is really important, because if you're just having great tactics, great strategy, but you don't work with the mindset, you're always going to be limited. The mindset plays a big role in being effective in following through those big plans and those big goals. And none of us have the expansive mindset to do everything. I mean, the folks that have become the giants of industry, I guarantee you they've had a coach or a mentor or someone who's helped them along the way transition from one mindset to the next, whether it was their mom or their dad or a close friend or a therapist or a mentor or a coach. Someone's been behind the scene helping them make these adjustments along the way. And then some of them might have had a very privileged life where everything they believed in the possibility, and that's possible too. But for the most part, most of us have to find a way to continue to be becoming, to continue to grow. And that's, the benefit of coaching.
So coming back to, you went through your own journey, opened up those limiting beliefs. Where did that take you?
It took me where I am right now. I didn't think I could ever venture out on my own to be hired as a consultant or as a executive, a fractional executive, or even as a coach. I always thought it would be wonderful to do it, but I didn't have the belief that I could. I had all the skills, all the knowledge, all the experience, but my belief wasn't there, so I could never take the step. And so once I rewired my thinking and began to see it as how do I share my gifts, your beliefs shifts. Now it's more about how many people can I share it with and how fast. So once I made that shift, then I can step into the role that I'm living in right now, which is, the best, my best life, as I like to call it.
I love it. I love
it. To help a lot of CEOs often hear saying, you gave me my life back with the work that I do, helping them, helping companies transition to more decentralized, autonomous organizations, adopting self-management principle. These are all things that create more expansion, more opportunities, more chances for people to step into leadership, more ownership, more empowerment, and ultimately creates value for the CEOs too, who get to do what they love to do instead of doing what they have to do. I can't tell you how many CEOs you speak to. They've been running their companies for 20 years and they're tired and they're not motivated and they're not actually excited going to work. It's their own company and they're not excited to go to work. It's their own company. I mean, go figure it out, right? Because they're just so overwhelmed with everything. Everything flows through them. It's not sustainable. But once you create a model where you can create more collaboration and you create more equivalence and empower people and you have visibility into this whole process, you can lay back and see, wow, there are people willing to do the stuff I don't really want to do. They love doing the stuff I don't want to do, so I can focus on the stuff I want to do. And guess what? When the entire organization operates that way, there's tremendous momentum that happens because everyone's focusing on what they love best. There are some people who love being in the weeds. Like me, I like being in the weeds. I like solving problems. And then there's some people who just love strategy, creative ideas, and they don't want to get in the weeds. They just want to come up with great ideas, but they'll have somebody else be in the weeds. So you create space for that to exist when you create collaboration inside the organization. And part of that requires rewiring the thinking. The traditional mindset around what does it mean to be a boss has to evolve. Even the traditional thinking around hierarchy today happens by title. You have title that establishes authority. So the rest, if you have authority, are compliant. Whereas in the model that I transitioned to, you are the one willing to serve the most. That's what earns the right for you to be followed. The team follows the one who's willing to serve. So authority is not given based on title, it's given based on merit. But if you're the person who was sold on this idea that getting to the top was where you want to be, that's when you've achieved the ultimate success. Most CEOs who get there realize it's very lonely up here. And also realize I got to constantly look over my shoulder. I have got to put on a different mask at the office, and I can be myself at home. It's exhausting. It's a duplicitous life. There's no freedom in that. You just reach the pinnacle of your career, and you're not free. That is not success.
No,
I'm
no.
sorry. That's slavery. That's not success. So when you shift, you have to help people shift out of that mindset. Well, you're telling me I can create an environment where everybody works on equivalent, so there's no need for bosses. Well, so what's my value there? Well, you have certain intrinsic experience and values. You're serve others, help them become leaders, help them co-own the success of the business. Take a pride in that. So shifting that requires rewiring sometimes.
Now you've obviously dealt with a lot of people, and from your position, from like that helicopter view, you will probably see those limiting beliefs before the people realize it. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Now,
It's
how
scary.
many of those people just deny and go, no, that's not possible, that's not true? Do you come across a few of those?
When I first started, I would bring it out and just call it out. And then I realized that that doesn't work very well. And it lacked a little bit of empathy. And what I've learned is you have to be able to acknowledge a person's ability to receive you first. How open are they to receiving that kind of reflection? Are they committed to growing? So there's a lot of elements to it. And quite often, there's also the element of insecurities that come into play. And there's a lot of leaders that are, the more controlling they are, the more insecure they are. So one of the things I do to identify the readiness of someone is ask them a simple question. On a scale of 0 to 10, if you had to score your self-worth, what would be your score? What's your self-worth? And it's interesting to watch individuals say things like, oh, I'm a 9, because there's always room for improvement. Or somebody say I'm an 8, or someone might say I'm a 6, I got a lot of work to do. And that gives me a certain picture about them, right? Typically, anyone over a 7 is more open to criticism, is more open to coaching. They're a little bit more secure in themselves. Those under a 7, they might be combative, like, yeah, I don't know, I don't agree with you. They'll stand their ground, because it's scary to admit that you have something to work on. It feeds your insecurity. That's part of the insecurity. But then even those who might say an 8 or 9, I might go through another exercise, and I'll use the example of an orange that's ripe and perfect. I say, if you had from a 0 to 10, what's the value of that orange? Let's assume it's a 10. It's perfect. It makes juice. It's edible. So it's a 10. Now let's take a seed of this orange and I plant it on the ground. What is the value of that seed? And some people will say, oh, it's a 0. It hasn't produced anything. Somebody might say a 5 or a 6, or someone might say, oh, it's a 10. And then I'll go through the question, what happens? I put some water in the sun and it sprouts. There's a little branch of the tree. What's the value of the tree now? And the person who might have said 0 would say something like, oh, it's a 3 now. It's showing some progress. And you get different answers. And then the tree grows and has branches. It starts to flower, hasn't produced any fruit. What's the value now? And that person who said 0, who said 3, who had said 4, might say, oh, okay, now it's like a 6, a 7, 8. It's close. And you'll get different answers from different people. And then I say, what happened? Something really bad happened. The season, the weather didn't cooperate, and the tree produced rotten fruit. It just had a bad year. What's the value now? Oh, it's a 0 again, right? And then there's that one person who says, oh, it's a 10. They say 10 all the way, because that person's connected to the potential of the seed, the potential of the tree, the ability that it has to produce a perfect fruit. They're not being driven by external factors like bad season that could have caused bad crops, right? And then there's the person who's like a roller coaster, right? If my relationships is going well, I'm happy. If my job career is not so good, I'm not happy. It's all dependent on all these external factors. Those are the individual have a harder time receiving that reflection, right? Versus the person who believes there's a potential for always doing great. Because at the end of the day, we're all born pre-approved for being magnificent. We all have the potential to be a 10 all the time. It's our beliefs that limit whether we step into that 10 or not.
I love
So,
that.
so I will find in a very empathetic way to figure out what I'm working with here, right? So someone who's insecure might be a different approach to help them first believe more in themselves, to view what it means to be successful. And I'll start talking about things like what do you consider a failure versus what you consider a success, to try to get an understanding of on their terms what that means. And I might work with them in reshaping their thinking about learning and growing being the ideal of what we want to accomplish in our lives, right?
Mm.
Because, and to take a more scientific approach to business. In science, every experimentation fails mostly until you find the right formula. So failure is built into the success equation of science. Therefore, failure is not really failure. It's just, you just learned an
Part of the
approach
process.
that you successfully proved an approach that doesn't work. And you can learn and grow from that and do another permutation where you successfully prove that that didn't work. And then you do another permutation until you successfully prove the one that works. So your relationship with that, if it's one of failure, you're going to give up, right? But if your relationship is, this is just a normal course on how we discover new medications, on how we make new discoveries. We go through all these failures to get to a successful outcome. So I help them transition in their thinking about themselves to be a little bit more scientific. Why do you expect yourself to get it right out of the gate? Give yourself some grace, the possibility of growing and learning, and through those experiences, getting to the successful outcome. And, take like Disney, right? He went bankrupt 7 times. Did he give up? No, he continued. Now he left a huge legacy. Most likely his mindset was, I just proved a way that doesn't work. I'm going to keep trying until it does. But some people will look at it as like, maybe I'm not good at this. They'll take this failure as a, maybe I'm not good at this. And that's actually the real failure, to think that. Because if you're focused on learning and growing, you just learned another way that doesn't work. Keep going, keep growing. So it's a different approach for every individual. If the individual is a little insecure, I help them to shift their mindset to learning and growing. And if the person is more consciously ready, we go right into, it's like, okay, I've noticed this pattern. Have you noticed that pattern? Most people will say, yeah, I kind of been dealing with that for a long time. Well, let's talk about it. So I find my way to be empathetic, to meet the person where they are and prepare them for this kind of rewiring. It doesn't just happen like this.
Okay. So it's not just CEOs that you work with, though. You work with entire teams.
Yes.
One of the challenges that seem to be coming up more and more nowadays is within the workforce, this new generation coming through. I hear it time and time again. They're just not motivated to work. Do you come across that?
That is not true. They're just not motivated to work under this command and control paradigm we've been in for a long time. And if we're honest with ourselves, none of us liked it. Even some of us older ones. Who wants to be told what to do, how to do it, when to do it? Who wants to have their thumb on them, micromanaged, marginalized, treated like children? Who wants to be treated like a child? We're all adults. We make difficult decisions every day, whether to get married, where to live, whether to have children. These are complex, difficult decisions, whether to have an operation. Complex, difficult decisions that we are more than capable of making if we have the right information and have the right tools to make the right decision. But somehow at work, we decided there's only a few people that can make all the decision. Everyone else just needs to comply. The newer generation is like, we're not having that. Give me the tools, give me the knowledge, and let me do it on my terms, because I am a grown adult. I don't need to be treated like a child. Now, they may not be consciously aware that that's actually what's going on in the mindset, because it comes across as like rebellion, right? But that's actually what's going on. They're pushing back on this idea of controls and force, because most companies operate on force. So now when you shift into this model of self-management or decentralized autonomous organization, there are 2 rules to those organizations. Number one, no force, no violence, meaning you can't coerce me, you can't force me, you can't manipulate, and you can't use scare tactics to get me to do what you want to do. And it's like, well, that would be terrible. How do you get anything done if nobody is motivated? Well, there's the other rule. Number two, 100% self-accountability, which means you can't just buy out because like, I'm not going to do anything because I'm free to do whatever I want. No, you have an accountability to your team and to your company to add value. So here's what happens in large companies. You might have one or two individuals that they can hide out for months in a traditional hierarchy. They can hide out for months because you got one person and you got a lot of people they may not be able to get to that person until months go by. So you can coast and hide out for a long time. It's a command and control environment, but somehow people can coast and hide out. In a self-management environment, within a week, your team will say, what's going on here? Where have you been? What's happening? Because the accountability is to a team and to being collaborative and adding value to each other. And it's based on the model of friendship. What do friends do? They celebrate each other. They don't compete. They celebrate each other. They support each other when one person's down, and they don't sell each other out, which means if you're going off track, I'm going to call you out and say, what are you doing? Right? That's what true friends do. So when you create a model where people can be adults and be supportive, and they've all committed to being 100% self-accountable, and there's freedom to do what you love doing, but there's a need to contribute, then, and you give them all the tools and all the information that they need. Here's the challenges we're having as a company. Here's what we need to overcome. You challenge people to go solve those problems collectively. They will always rise to the occasion. And the stats and the data in recent years proves it. You've got a lot of studies from Deloitte, from McKinsey. Companies that operate this way are like 10x more profitable. They're 76% more engaged employees, 3x more productive. So it becomes strategic to your business to have a model of collaboration where people are treated as adults and have the freedom to be adults. What's happening is the newer generation, this is what they want. They're not finding it, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to work in that environment. They're not motivated. I don't blame them. None of us liked it. We forced ourselves, and we tapped into this idea of self-sacrifice because we had families early and we needed to take care of our families, right? The newer generation maybe doesn't have those commitments up front, which is giving them the freedom of saying, yeah, I'm not doing that. Right? So the organization that go in this direction, the young ones, they love working there. I've lived it. I've seen it. It's not theory. And they stick around for a long time, and they give their best work because they feel empowered. They have autonomy. They have a sense of self. And so part of the EmpathIQ framework that I created infuses this idea of these 4 tenets that came out of research that my co-founders of Radical Purpose and I did over a period of almost 2.5 years. These were a bunch of self-management practitioners, sociocracy, holography, teal, Morningstar practitioners, all coming together along with some organizational psychologists to figure out how do you create really engaged cultures? And we landed on 4 key tenets. Number 1 is the desire to belong to something greater than yourself, which is why religion and politics is so big.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, to have meaning behind what we're doing, which is why those same systems are also so big. Number 3, the ability to make an impact, which is why we start companies, we build stuff, we have family, we want to make an impact, we join movements, we're activists. These are all opportunities to make an impact. And 4, the need to be becoming, which is why the self-help industry is like $1 trillion, right? So when you synergize these 4 very basic human needs into your organization, the only way to do this is through collaboration. So now I have a software engineer who's never been involved in a branding effort because we might have decided as a company, we need to work on our branding. We need to refresh our branding. So let's collaborate on that. Who wants to participate on this branding exercise? And then clearly there'll be some who will step right in. They'll champion it. And then there'll be some who will support it. And then what we do is create a model for observers. Who wants to participate to learn?
I like
So
that.
now the software engineer, like, I'd like to learn how to do some branding work, and they can participate in that team in that work.
I
They're
love
just
that
there
idea.
to observe and learn. Now, what happens is those observers sometimes give the most amazing wisdom because they have a different point of view on things. So that collaboration now creates innovation that came out of nowhere that you would have expected it. So when you create that model, it creates opportunity to do all those four things. If I'm in this lane, I can cross lane, which means I can do something that's greater than myself. I can have an impact. I can have more meaning behind my job. I'm not just in this lane in this department. I'm across everything I can be, and I get to grow. I learn things that I would never get a chance to do anywhere else. Now, what happens in that environment, you have very engaged people who want to be there, who feel like they're having an entrepreneurial experience within a company. And ultimately, what you're trying to create is that entrepreneurial experience for everyone and giving them the power to do so. And the way I think of it is this way: it's like how more effective could your company be if everybody was able to think like the CEO and everyone acted like the CEO and everyone was empowered like the CEO? It's a process to get them there, but I've seen it work. When you give adults the tools they need and the knowledge they need, they will always rise to the occasion. And you're not just counting on one person, because the collaboration taps into collective wisdom, collective intelligence, something you can never accomplish with just 2, 3 people at the top. You're always going to be limited by the knowledge and experience you have, even though as deep as it might be, versus a team of 6, 8 different people from different disciplines coming together, creating novel ways of doing things. You're never going to get the innovation as good as that just with 2, 3 people who've been doing it for 40 years.
No, I love that. I love that. This is probably off topic, but AI. Do you think this has anything to bring to the business environment and culture of teams?
AI thrives in decentralized autonomous environments. It is not designed to be brought into command and control structure that require rubber stamping of approvals, or one department needing to get another approval from another department, and so on and so forth. It stalls in that environment. So most companies, actually 70% of projects, are being abandoned because the middle management layer, it feels threatened by AI. It's exposing these dysfunctional command and control structures that are not designed for agility. So AI comes in, and it's like putting a Ferrari on a dirt track. It's going to go off. You're going to go fast, and as soon as you take a turn, it's going to fly off the road. There's nowhere to grip. It has nowhere to grip. The tires can't grip on dirt road. It's made for asphalt, right? So AI is like bringing a high-speed Ferrari on a dirt track. It's going to go off the road instantly, and that's exactly what's happening. So when you AI is not a technology implementation, by the way. AI readiness and AI adoption requires organizational redesign.
Right.
And the best way I can describe it, the best way a company can do it, is to treat it like you just acquired a company you need to integrate post M&A. So when you acquire a company, there's some intrinsic values that company brings to the table. And an effective post M&A integration doesn't just discard their systems or processes, it integrates them. You create something anew from the combined entity. Some synergy that was identified by these two entities coming together. A successful post M&A integration effort will bring those synergies to life. In bringing in AI, you need to treat it as it bringing something new that your organization doesn't have. Agility, speed, autonomy. So if your organization doesn't have those things, well, you need to transform in order to welcome that new acquisition, or it's going to fail. So when you treat it that way, now you look at it as a change management effort. AI adoption requires change management, not just change management. It requires organizational redesign, rethinking how the organization runs. And the only organizational environments that I know that can easily integrate AI or decentralized autonomous organization or self-management systems, because they're already designed for speed and agility and no need for bosses rubber stamping things.
Love it. Have you got an example, not naming any names of companies, but have you got a story of a company that has gone through this change and what it meant to them and what happened, what the outcome was?
Oh, absolutely. The company I'm the fractional COO of right now today, a smaller company, uh, very consciously aware CEO. CEO been running this company for over 20 years. Wanted to create a more collaborative environment. Wanted to take on more. And so one of the benefits of moving in this direction is we've seen 3x operational capacity without any additional headcount.
Wow.
And just from the success factor, we launched 4 different products in 1 year from the same team. We started as a team with 5 OKRs. Now we have like 15 different initiatives at the same time. There's champions, participants, and people learning and moving things forward together as a team. We all collectively get together on a weekly basis and have these stand-up meetings where everyone's operating from a sense of equivalence. There's no more boss mindset.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO is one of the CEOs like, I got my life back. I get to do the things that I love doing instead of the things that I have to do. And feels good about the business again. We launched an award-winning, we got 2 gold standards in 2025 for an AI product called AI CMO. All came out of this same team. We didn't hire additional people to accomplish all these things.
Yeah.
We did them all with the same team. We transformed the entire operating model into a empathetic business model. We have a very unique approach to the market with how we deal with clients. There are pods that manage client relationship instead of departments. Those pods are integrated cross-functionally. So you have the client relationship teams that have sales, account management, delivery, everyone in the same pod. And they operate like a small P&L, like a small franchise. And they are empowered to make decisions for their portfolio company, like they're managing their own P&L. And so instead of it all going to the CEO for everything, it's decided at the team level. Things move faster. Even clients have commented, you guys are so great. Your speed on how you respond to things has dramatically improved. Well, because you don't have all these silos where you got to go check with one department and that department. They don't exist. It's all one team.
So
So
what
we got
kind of
a lot more
size
done with less people.
what kind of size team and how long did that transition really take from where it was to where it is today?
We're about 40 people, and in 2 years we haven't added any headcount, but we are operating as if we're 120 people
Love
in
it.
terms of capacity output. So the impact, and it's been phenomenal, is basically 3x your capacity. Then with some AI, you can get exponential growth. This is without AI. This is
Yeah.
just organizational redesign. And it's been phenomenal because I've lived it elsewhere as an operating executive, but to be the advisor to bring it to life was gratifying to me to say, okay, it actually works. You know, sometimes it's hard to replicate something that you created that you were part of somewhere else.
Mm.
And we, as the co-founder of RadicalPurpose.org, we've tried different approaches to help organizations make this transition and quite didn't crack the code for years. And so we sort of found the model that works, you know, and the EmpathIQ is that framework that's helping, because at the core of it is self-awareness. That's the force field analysis. We identify what we need to work with. Then we use collaborative OKRs to organize ourselves collaboratively. And instead of owners like traditional OKRs, there's champions and supporters and observers. So we're also learning how to collaborate. We're learning to remove the silos. We're helping the executive team participate as mentors and coaches, not as bosses. Then there's coaching involved there, because there we identify where the roadblocks are in thinking and mindset. So there's some targeted coaching that takes place there. Then we infuse some design thinking principles to really bring the empathetic approach to doing things to life, right? So everything is done with empathy and identify who's ready for what and helping the team identify that amongst each other. And then introducing self-management principles, you know, where you have collaborative agreements between your teammates, where you begin to infuse this idea of everyone's free to do what they love, but you're 100% committed to one another and you're and accountable to each other. And fast forward 4 to 6 quarters later, you have a highly transformed business that runs itself. The CEO could take off for 6 months if he wanted to, and the company would still run just fine.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. Everyone's thinking like a CEO. There's tremendous freedom in that, and we create opportunities within the business. Now we've created a model where we expanded some of our offering, where people can participate and get remuneration for stepping into growing and learning new skills. So we're creating entrepreneurial opportunities within the business, so that you don't even have to leave the company to create more income for yourself. You can step into being entrepreneurial within the business itself. That's not a very easy thing to do, but it's intentional. It can be done with some purpose when you identify that what you're really there for is to help people grow and learn. And we're doing it collectively.
I really love that. And you know what? Just listening to it actually makes me feel excited about this stuff.
It is. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. Look, the mindset thing is very powerful. We know that. Some of these titans, as you said, their mindset is verging on delusional, but that helps them. And, the sky's the limit.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault. You don't learn this in MBA programs. HR certificate programs don't teach you this. They teach you compliance. So, and part of the problem is we left the industrial age about 100 years ago, but we carried the operating model forward. And the industrial age operating model served its purpose. It was there to safeguard lives. You needed to have stringent approaches, very, very well-defined processes for manufacturing, for building things, or people would die, literally die. So you needed to have that rigid structure in place to safeguard lives. But we carried that model into the knowledge space, where it's all about operationalizing individual intelligence. And it doesn't work when you're starting out with putting roadblocks, commands, and compliance controls on people. That doesn't infuse them to want to do more. That just makes people hate their jobs. And 80% of people are disengaged because they hate their jobs. It's not that they hate their job. They hate the structure they're in that chokes them, that sucks the life out of them. And the problem is that we carry this industrial age mindset into the knowledge age. We need to make a change. And what I love about AI, as companies are beginning to look at adopting AI to improve the speed on how they run their business and be more competitive, it's highlighting how broken it is. So it's a good thing. Yeah. Whether they eventually figure out how to change it, hopefully they will. That's one of the reasons I created this framework, is we can help you make that change. And I'm beginning to see even technology leaders beginning to talk about change management and organizational redesign. I even saw a posting not too long ago from a CEO of a technology company saying, AI is not a technology initiative. It's an organizational change initiative. And I was like, hallelujah, they get it, So we're going to start seeing that,
Hey, Tullio, it's been a real pleasure. If people need to find you to learn more about this stuff, you've got a website address or something?
Yes, Tullio Siragusa, TullioSiragusa.com. All my social handles are there, how to reach me. You can email me right there. My blog, my videos, everything is there.
I really love it. Oranges and elephants. That's what I've taken out of today. And I love it. I'm going to remember that. Thank you so much for your time. This has been Let's Talk Small Business, and we've all learned a lot. I'll leave you there. Let's Talk Small Business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.